G'day all you beautiful people of planet Earth, and welcome to the 7th episode of Planet Positivity. The beautiful thing about traveling in a tour like I did, or like we did, is that you get to wake up in one country and go to sleep in another. So we woke up in Paris, had our last breakfast, and that night we went to sleep in Switzerland. So one of the most awesome features about traveling around Europe with a tour group on a coach like we did was that you would wake up in one country and then go to sleep in another. And you got to see the contrast between different countries. And so we woke up, had our last breakfast in Paris in France, and then most of us slept because it was quite a long drive into Switzerland. But it was so beautiful to say goodbye to Paris that way, driving through the streets. And then a mere few hours later, most of us actually woke up so that we could appreciate the natural beauty of Switzerland. Drive into Lauterbrunnen is incredibly memorable. It's like stepping into a fairy tale. It's just this gorgeous little village in between huge mountains and peaks with the most beautiful waterfall that I'd ever seen, with cute little cottage houses, a gorgeous church, and the streets just look like, it just looks like you're in a dream. And one of my travel buddies, Kat, who I absolutely adored, she was a hoot and a half, that girl. She was smart enough to actually do time lapses for us so that you can see what we got to see. It's a one-of-a-kind kind of drive, and it's something that you don't see when you're flying to and from different destinations in Europe. So I highly recommend doing a coach tour around Europe so you get to see the beauty of each individual country.
这一次我真的睡着了。
So in my opinion, one of the best features of Lauterbrunnen is that you are immersed in nature constantly, and you have the reminder wherever you go. All you hear around the streets, no matter where you are, is the constant sound of running water. So of course you have the beautiful waterfall, but the snow-capped peaks and the glaciers that are nearby are always melting into streams that flow into rivers that run all throughout the town. And the colors, the blues that you see are absolutely incredible. And the sound that it makes is always awesome too.
Some cheeky snacks, watch the rain and the waterfalls and the clouds, and just, you know, love life a little bit.
It was by far the most pure, clean and delicious water I have ever drank in my entire life. And you could fill up because on the streets there were all these little taps that ran from the melting water. It was absolutely incredible. So you had the rivers and the streams, the taps and the waterfall. No matter where you were, you could see water, you could hear water. It was absolutely beautiful and well worth a visit. If you only get to go to one place in Switzerland like I did, I highly recommend Lauterbrunnen. I think the people that go to other towns and then when they get home see all the pictures of Lauterbrunnen and regret not going there themselves. The other part of the group went to a place called Jungfrau, which is like going to the top of the mountains with the snow. They had an awesome day. And a few friends of mine, Kat, the one who offered the time-lapse videos for us, thank you Kat, and the token Brazilian friend Gabs, they took a huge stroll up into the waterfall that you can see pictured all throughout Lauterbrunnen. And the view that they had from that waterfall was absolutely magnificent. The water looks like glitter as they pan around the view. I really wish I got to do that. And if I ever find myself in Lauterbrunnen again, that is exactly what I plan on doing. The group, I actually got to have one of the most peaceful, beautiful, and romantical nights of my life, hanging out with my Brazilian friend Gabriel, or Gabs, as I called him. So, we spent the afternoon just walking, and that's the beauty of Lauterbrunnen. Everywhere you go, you're just walking in a dreamscape, you're walking in a fairy tale. There's so many beautiful details, and what I appreciated about the town is that they kept everything quite natural. Beautiful flowers and wood, and it was gorgeous. And so we went for a walk and had a look at the beautiful farmland that was around. I might go that way actually. Let's mix it up a little bit. Yeah, so we discovered the farmland that was left of where we were staying, and then we went back up, had a look at all these beautiful houses up to where the waterfall was, and the shops that line the streets. Then we had dinner, and then everybody went for another night of drinking and dancing. Gabs and I decided to mix it up. We were a little bit older than most of the people that we traveled with, and we had just awesome conversation all afternoon. So we were talking about him being from Brazil and myself being from Australia. The politics in our countries are different. We talked about religion and spirituality, and I'll never forget him telling me this story. So there was this famous guy in Brazil who was famous for, I think you would call it channeling. So he started writing letters and giving them to families that had lost someone. And the handwriting matched the person who'd passed. The information in all of the letters, for example, I remember him telling me a story of a mother who'd lost her son. And the way this letter was written, it was like the son had written it to the mother, complete with all the nicknames, the information that only the son would have known. And at the start, a lot of people in Brazil doubted this man and his abilities, because this was quite a long time ago. And over time, the more and more that these letters come out, people then started approaching him, asking him to tap into somebody else who'd passed and write a letter for them, because it helped them to gain closure. And so we started talking about spirituality and things of this nature. Then after we had dinner and everybody went to go have a few cheeky drinks and a dance, Gabs and I went for a walk up to the top of where we were staying, and there was this big hill, and at the top of it was a beautiful tree. And there were 2 chairs there, so we both just sat under this tree, and it was a clear night, and we're looking up at the stars, and we're staring at this waterfall that was all lit up at night. And we're just talking about life, about love, about our adventures in life. He'd actually spent some time living in Colorado, in the US, which is one of my dreams, to just live in another country. And so we were sharing stories and sharing our dreams, and it was just such a beautiful night. It wasn't about the physicality, it was just the setting and the conversation that made it one of the most beautiful, peaceful and romantic nights of my life. I had so much fun, and we were up till like midnight just talking, and after that me and him were like this, and we still are. So I hope you get to meet Gabs and love him like I do.
I think it should be something I don't wanna hold back. Baby, you should know that.
I'm pretty sure it was our last night in Switzerland as well. But a few of our travelling companions got their cheeky drinks on in the chilled waters of Switzerland. And we could hear them from space at that time. But I heard the faint sounds of a Justin Bieber sing-along happening. So I ventured around to where we were staying, and in one of the hallways, everyone had gathered around communally, drinking together in a hallway, and was singing a Justin Bieber sing-along. So when in Switzerland, get your Justin Bieber on. It was such a beautiful memory of having everybody doing this together. And all of the other people that were traveling around Switzerland at the time were looking at us all quite strangely, but it was a very memorable experience for all involved.
I think it should be something I don't wanna hold back. Baby, you should know that my mama don't like you and she likes everyone.
How embarrassing.
I never lied to admit that I was wrong. I've been so caught up in my job, didn't see what's going on, but now I know I'm better sleeping on my own. Cause if you like the way you look that much, oh baby, you should go and love yourself. And if you think that I'm still holding on to something, you should go and love yourself.
How's this for service?
So one of the most common pastimes in Switzerland, particularly in Lauterbrunnen, is to chill your beverages via the melted glacier and snow-capped mountains that create little streams all throughout the town. And where we were staying, it actually had this gorgeous little device that you wind down, and it would wind the drinks into the water. It would take less than 2 minutes for the drink to cool.
How's this for service? Oh. No, it's going up this way. Chilled by a glacier. It's floating. How's this for service? Like, chilled by glacial waters.
But apparently the lady said maybe down here. Oh. I was like, I don't think they're staying here. They can keep straight. If I don't get one, I don't get one.
And then we just sat and we watched the waterfall. We had a good chat, good laugh,
Cheeky drinks, cheeky
and enjoyed the beauty of Lauterbrunnen.
rain and the waterfalls.
We were also lucky enough that the place we stayed at had this cute little bar that at night would turn into like a mini club. Because it's such a small village though, there was a strict 10 p.m. curfew, but as long as those doors were shut, the party went on. So we were there for about 2 nights, I think. And on the second night, after I went skydiving with all the daredevils of the group, so upon booking the trip into Europe, the major thing that I needed to do in Switzerland was to skydive. It was the only place that we had the option to do this, and I thought, how can I find a more beautiful country to see with an aerial view? I'd had a good 6 to 8 months to mentally prepare myself to go skydiving because it's not something that I'd ever done before. And to be honest, as far as all my adventure activities go, it was by far the worst experience I ever had. It was an epic fail. In saying that, I didn't die, obviously, and the parachute did open, so it wasn't an epic fail in terms of that. But I learned a very valuable lesson about being influenced by other people, because as a result of that, it completely ruined the experience for me altogether. It's a very embarrassing story, and I'm so grateful that I do not have a video of me skydiving itself for you to be able to see how bad it was. I'll try and muster up the courage to tell you the story. Good old Julie and I got to play the old switcheroo. She was screaming in terror in the helicopter, and I was loving life, pumped and ready to jump. She got to go first. I was keen to go first, but as the universe would have it, the one who was scared was the one who was going first. And you could feel her terror. But after she fell out of the helicopter, she was loving life all the way down. Not me. Me, on the other hand, I was loving life until I come out of the helicopter. After that, I was terrified and fearing my life. So as you creep out of the helicopter, I felt like a spider, and I've put my legs, you know, on like I call it the legs of the helicopter, so that I was holding on to something. But I was outside of the helicopter and I held on up the top, and the guy that I was jumping with kicked my legs out, so I'm just dangling, looking at this view, and he's pushed my arms off to hold us both there. Oh my goodness, I was not ready for this. That's when I'm like, oh my God, because I got to see the magnitude of the view that I was about to see from an aerial position. Oh my gosh, but you can hear that I'm ready. I'm so ready for this. What I wasn't ready for was what went down afterwards. Oh, Jesus.
You gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. Stick it. Oh, we're really high up, huh? What a view. All right, get ready. 3, bye boy. Side. Oh my God. Good. Hands inside. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeehaw! Remember, breathe, relax, and have a good.
All up, I think we paid about $1,000 to be able to skydive in Switzerland. In Australia, we could have done that for half the price, but when in Switzerland, go skydiving. So, when old mate said to me, oh, it was so boring, I thought to myself, I don't want to pay $1,000 to go skydiving and be bored. How dumb. The most stupidest advice from someone else that I ever took. It wasn't even advice, he was just expressing himself about his opinion, but I took that on board and didn't want to be disappointed. Not that I'd ever skydived before, free-falled before. I'd been parasailing, as you saw in Fiji, but that's about as far as I went, so I didn't really want to be disappointed in that experience. So just before we went skydiving, we actually went in a helicopter, which is quite rare. Most people go skydiving in a plane, but we took a helicopter through the Swiss Alps and we got to about 16,000 feet. And on the way up, that was actually when it first hit me, to be honest, that I was skydiving. I'd spent that entire year telling my kids I was teaching a composite 3-4, so years 3 and 4 or grades 3 and 4, and I was telling my kids all year I'm going skydiving in Switzerland. Anyone that I spoke to, I would tell them I'm going skydiving. I should make a video called Things Not to Say on Your First Skydive. Do not tell the person you're jumping with who's jumped between 500 and 1,000 times before to have fun. His version of a fun skydive versus a first timer, two completely different things. Don't tell them that you like roller coasters, because free falling and roller coasters, not the same thing. You don't have the benefit of being strapped to something and you know where you're going. When you're free falling, you don't know what's going on. Imagine what happened. As soon as we went out of the helicopter, I'm reliving it. All we did was spin. We were tumbling, somersaulting, backflipping, going from side to side. It didn't take long for my body to start freaking out, especially my stomach. My body had never experienced anything like that in my entire life. Just the experience of having the world as you know it, instead of looking at it from a horizontal perspective, and you're looking at it aerially from a vertical perspective, that is a huge shift for your mind to process, let alone your body. So my stomach, the poor thing, did not get to adjust before we started spinning. And I had my eyes open, at least for the first few seconds, and all I saw was the earth spinning before me in different directions simultaneously and non-stop. It took a good, I'll say 15-20 seconds of my stomach bouncing around my body, and that's what it felt like, before I realized I'm gonna throw up. Silly me this poor guy that I was jumping with, not the poor guy, poor me, but the guy I was jumping with, he was having fun. I wasn't. I was quiet, which is very rare for me. And I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I couldn't handle seeing the world spinning around me. I had to close my eyes, but I didn't want to vomit because I knew if I vomited, yuck, and it would ruin this poor guy's view probably. And I'd feel sorry for the people on the ground that had to receive whatever was left by the time it got down there. So I made the decision to maintain control of the body and hold down the spew. I had to breathe deeply, keep my eyes closed, and I was just telling myself, Ali, it's okay. Once he pops the parachute, we're home free. We can breathe, we can see, we can enjoy. But I couldn't take it. After about 30 seconds, 40 seconds of free falling, I'm guessing, because the whole thing was just a blur of terror for me. I knew I would live, but I just didn't know if I could hold down the vomit for long enough. And I didn't want to ruin the experience for the poor guy with me. And I just said to him, I'm dizzy. And then he went straight, and I opened my eyes. It was only for a few seconds. A few seconds of peace while I'm still holding down the vomit and trying to breathe, and then bang, he started somersaulting again. Oh geez, it was so scary. And then I thought, just brace yourself and wait for the parachute to pop. And then the parachute popped, and I opened my eyes, I took a deep breath and went to take it all in. Yep, he's pulled the plug, or pulled the string, and we started going this way. Then he went the other way, we started going the other way. It just didn't stop. And I just said to him, mate, can I just see the waterfall? Because we were going right over the top of the waterfall. And to his credit, he did. He let me enjoy the waterfall. It didn't take long though. And then we hit the ground. I had never been so grateful for an experience to end in my entire life. Wow. And I don't know about you, but I'm someone who doesn't like vomiting in public. I just don't enjoy it. So I wanted to hold it down until I was in like a safe space. But I'd never been so grateful to hit the ground in my entire life. I wasn't speaking, I would have been pale as, and everyone else that had jumped was so pumped up. The exhilaration alone of skydiving for them, everyone was supercharged, and I was just mute and holding my stomach and trying to breathe. And I still had to like get changed, put like everything back together, all my stuff, get it together, and then get back to our place, which was like 20 minutes away. Oh, the universe sent me an angel. The manager of the place actually said, oh, I'm going for a drive and I'm gonna go straight past where you're staying. If you want to lift with me, you can take it. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for the bus for everyone to jump. I said, I'm going. And I went by myself. I held it down for a good minute after we got to where I was staying, and then the only thing I ate that morning was an apple, but that needed to come up and out, and it went everywhere. And I just thought, wow, who fails skydiving like that? Ali does. But the good thing about it is I'm so excited for when I do it in New Zealand, because I know I'm just going to have the boring experience and it can't be worse than anything I ever experienced that time. Thank you, Switzerland. Thank you for showing me the beauty of this country that for me is unrivaled anywhere else in Europe. Thank you so much. Thank you for the amazing adventure that I got to have there, albeit not the best skydiving adventure known to man. But thank you for showing me part 1 of skydiving, part 2 to be continued. Thank you for giving me one of the most beautiful nights of my life. Thank you for showing me this gorgeous little village in the middle of Switzerland. And thank you to everybody that I traveled with there. We had such a good time.